Well, there's the original ways just to reach out to model agents. There's a bunch of model agencies in New York City. You can just Google them. You can say top 10, top 15 model agencies and then reach out to them. All of them should have their contact information, but of course, if you know a person who works there and you send an email to their personal email, then you're gonna have more responses. But if you don't have much budget, then it will make sense to just post, it's called a casting call. You can post it on social media, on your Instagram account, or Facebook account, or there's also an app that's called Swipecast. So this is basically an app that cuts the agencies, because agencies usually charge 20% like from the budget, and you also pay 20% to the client. But if you do casting call on your own, then you like cut that cost, you know, the 40% that you have to pay to other people. So if you don't have much budget and you want to do your own casting call, then it's social media. I wouldn't recommend Craigslist, because Craigslist is usually, it has a bad reputation. People usually think it's a scam if there's a casting call on Craigslist, because I know a lot of people who were in very funny situations. The trend these days is also, it's very popular, it's street casting. So basically you go to Soho or to West Village, to a stylish area in New York City or wherever you live, and just like look around, and then if you're inspired by anyone, just approach them, ask for their Instagram, whatever. And you know, featuring real people in campaigns these days is also, it's a thing. It really depends on your project. You know, that's the rule, that you should look at different things if it's either a photo shoot, a video shoot, or a fashion show. Because these are three different aspects, you know, how to sort of like select a model. For example, if it's a fashion show, then height is very important. And you know, the size of the model, there's like a runway size, or there's high fashion size. So because for the runway show, girls usually they're 5'10", 5'10.5" at least. I'm speaking about the height, because you know, when they step out at the runway, if a girl is shorter, she's kind of getting lost in the frame, in the pictures. So that if you're looking for a model for a photo shoot, then it's basically you can do a few test snaps to see how she looks, you know, in front of the camera, because sometimes girls look very different in the real life and then in the pictures. But for the videos, I think that's tricky, because in that case, a model has to also be some sort of an actress, you know, how she interacts with the camera. Because with videos, there's more mood. So those are all the aspects that should definitely, I would advise to meet the models in person before you book them. Because sometimes when you look at their books, they look completely different than what they are in real life. And these days in pandemic, it's, you know, there's Zoom castings, FaceTime castings, those kind of things. Also, yes, there's such thing as, you know, parts models. But if you, for example, if you're shooting shoes, if your brand is shoes or like jewelry, then you don't need to pay the full rate of a full-time model. You can just hire parts models. There's like an agencies that represent parts models. They cost sufficiently less, and that's the best solution, you know, if you only need their hand. These days, fashion is any other business in the world. It's not like before, because we're living in pandemic. So here. When it comes to diversity these days, especially like in the US and in Europe, people are more, like the fashion, it became more inclusive. So people of color, they are being featured more, which is a good thing. But I think in emerging markets, like for example, I'm from Uzbekistan, and I speak to my friends over there and to my family, and they don't understand yet like what's going on with the world. So it really, when it comes to diversity, you should really think about where this ad, like which country this ad is going to come out in. So when it comes to models' rate, there is no rule. There is no fixed price for that. It's all about negotiation. So basically, but the rule is that you never ask a client, an agent, how much is that model or this model. You say, this is my rate, this is what I'm ready to pay, send me a package. So you're telling them all the rates and then also the usage of all the assets. For example, if you're going to use it all on social media, it's going to be one price. If it's going to be used on your website, on the billboards, in Times Square, everywhere else, there's going to be different price. Even though the model is going to come on set, work same 8 hours, do the same job, but then the usage of the pictures in the end or the video is going to be different. For example, also if it's 6 months or 1 year, then the rate is going to be different. So it's usually we're speaking about 6 months like length of the usage. Another thing, like if you don't have much budget, there's also you can negotiate. There's such thing as you pay the rate and also plus the trade. It's called a trade. So for example, you give her a check for a certain amount of money and a voucher for like a certain amount of money worth of your product. You can pay half and half, or if it's a new model, she just needs some experience and would just like love to work for your brand. She loves your brand. You can also pay her with just your product. I want to share this. This is my personal experience. So because we do castings for Fashion Week, the fashion shows, and this September during the hottest pandemic, there was only 4 live shows in New York City, compared to this usually around 80 to 100 shows. There's only 4 shows in September, and I worked in one of those. It was Rebecca Minkoff. It was unforgettable experience, and I think after that anything is possible. Because we didn't have an office back then, we would do a casting in Madison Square Park, like literally casting in the park, which was like great. It was fun. But like people were looking at us, what are they doing? Because we also, when girls come, we ask them to like do a walk for us. So models were coming in, waiting in line, and do like a walk in the park. And then we would bring the ones that we like to see the designer in her showroom. And everyone was wearing a mask. That was a rule. And usually there's like 150 girls can wait in the hallway for their order to be seen. But then in pandemic, we had a rule that only 6 girls were allowed at a time in the room. And then during the shows, so the ones who got booked in the end, they all had to present a negative COVID test before entering the venue at the show, and the test had to be 4 days fresh. So you could not, it had to also, that was a lot of scheduling as well. And it's usually, it was a presentation, it was not a runway. So all the girls were there, all the models were there, standing, wearing a mask. And because in normal life, there's a crowd, right, in the room, like 200 people at least. But in pandemic, we only let 10 people at a time. So 10 people come in, they look at the collection, they leave, and then 10 more people come in. And that was longer, but there was safety. There was safety rules. And everyone was wearing a mask, and all the guests, all the crew, team members, like bodyguards, everyone had to present a negative COVID test before entering the venue. And the backstage, actually, the hair and makeup, they had to use a disposable, the one-time like brushes. If they used this brush on one model, they were not able to use the same brush on a different model. And all the like makeup stations, they were like separated with pixie glasses, like this. It was funny. And even backstage, there's usually like around 100 people, all the photographers, the press, the celebrities, the influencers, but this time it was only 50. There was capacity, it was 50 people allowed backstage, including all the models, which were like 20. So the crew was only 30 people. Okay, so good luck with your shootings, and if you have any questions or you need any help, you can contact me in my Instagram, and I will be happy to advise you.